Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Welcome. Great to have you with us. Another day working with you. Unbelievable. So what's your big comment today? I mean, one day Ayuk's out the door, next day he's in, next day he's out the door, next day he's in.
Well, I think his ideal situation would be that he stays with the 49ers. But I also think the
ideal situation for you.
Well, at this point, he's got to stay. Because, you're looking at Pearsall. Obviously, I'm not going to judge the guy hasn't seen the field in the preseason yet. But he's been injured 3 times here in practice already.
But I already told you, when they drafted him, I said it wasn't a good pick.
No. And his
you act like I don't watch the games.
And his injuries are hurting him. And so now who's your other option at receiver? So you at this point probably are going to have to overpay for Brandon Ayuk. They've upped the contract offer by the sounds of it. I think his preference is to probably stay with the 49ers, but who knows? His behavior obviously did not go over well with Kyle Shanahan, so who knows what's going to happen there? But
that's okay. If I were Ayuk, I wouldn't be happy with Shanahan. He knows how to handle overtime.
I don't think he'd be happy in the fourth quarter with any fourth quarter or overtime with Kyle Shanahan. But I think at this point I think he's probably used a little bit of these teams for leverage. I think the Patriots showed they're willing to pay him, which is the indicator that, hey, you want me on your team, you're going to have to pay up. So the 49ers had to increase their offer. And they did, so we'll see. It's going to be interesting, but I think the 49ers just felt like we can get a receiver in return, no problem. Nobody was giving them a receiver. The best option they had was Cortland Sutton on a 3-way trade with the Broncos. And you're going to bring him on. I think at that point, you're better off taking your chance on overpaying. And I think you are overpaying for Ayuk. I think he's a good receiver. I don't think he's a top 3 to 4 receiver in the league. I'd go one further. I'm not even sure he's the most valuable receiver on the 49ers. But at this point, I think you got to overpay for him. The other thing
it's not your money. I always love it.
Yeah, well, of course. Well,
look, it's not your money.
No, it's not my money. The
NFL you don't care. It's not your cash.
The NFL makes plenty of money too, so it has to do with the 49ers because of that.
And so do you.
Absolutely.
I always loved when you drove that red Chevy, which was just a front for the Lamborghini.
Completely. Check engine light. That was just display.
See, the first part to recovery is admitting the problem.
Right. At some point, you feel like the 49ers' blunders in the first couple rounds of the draft are going to catch up to them because they've had a few. Drake Jackson's out for the year again. That's 2 years now in a row he's not seen the field. And the trade up to take Trey Sermon. He's played for the Colts, and that's about it. He's been on about 6 NFL teams. He's seen action with 1. So there's a lot of blunders that this team has had in the first couple rounds of the draft. And again, I'm not writing Pearsall off yet. He's not seen the field hardly. But when you have 3 injuries in 4 days, that's a concern.
Look, these are your people.
They are my people. But
these are your people.
They are. Okay? They've been bailed out by the late round steals. Then they've got quite a few of them. You get the best linebacker in football in the 3rd round. You get one of the best tight ends in football in the 5th round. You get 2 great safeties. Obviously, Jair Brown in the 3rd round. You had Hufanga before him, 2 drafts prior in the 5th round. So they're the master at finding steals in the draft. They're very, very poor at drafting early on.
Meanwhile, the Steelers are sitting there and they've evidently made offers.
They have, but not enough to sway.
No.
I think the 49ers had the mentality, we're going to take one of three guys from you. We're going to take Pat Freiermuth, we're going to take Minkah Fitzpatrick, or we're going to take George Pickens, and the Steelers said no, no, no.
If I were the Steelers, I'd say no, 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 too.
I would.
For a guy that's really a number 2 receiver.
Yeah, I agree. I think he could be a number 1 receiver. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I just don't think he's a top 5 receiver. I don't think he's anywhere near the caliber of Justin Jefferson. Nowhere near Jamar Chase. Nowhere near Tyreek Hill. Those 3 guys are levels above Brandon Ayuk. Mm-hmm. Not even close.
Yeah.
That's where I'm measuring him in terms of what you're paying him. Now St. Brown, I thought the Lions overpaid for him too. I think he's a great receiver. I don't think he's $29 million or $28 million, whatever he got, great receiver. So I think it's, unfortunately, and this happens in the NFL, you see teams wait too long. You see players gain leverage, and that's what happened here. Yeah, if the 49ers would have offered him $26 million a year ago.
To be honest with you, it kind of sounds like you're in negotiations with our people here.
That's right. If they offer him that the end of the year after the Super Bowl, good chance I think you get him for that. Unfortunately, you waited, and receiver market went up quite a bit.
Yeah. Well.
But
okay.
Yeah, by all means, there is no way I'm putting him on the level of those 3 guys I named. Not even close. I'm not putting Deebo Samuel at that level.
I mean, look, the Steelers made an offer. That's fine. Would it, depending on what they gave up, would it make a difference? I mean, because
not this
it's
year.
not just what you're getting, it's what you're giving up.
Not this year for the 49ers. It's not going to make a difference.
And I'll be honest with you. I'm not so sure it makes a difference for the Steelers because I don't think they have anybody good enough to get on the ball.
I was about to say that. Yeah, quarterback is a concern for them. Russell Wilson.
It is a big concern because Russell Wilson, look, time and age will change your body.
Up. Absolutely.
But time and age will change your body. It's not just catching up.
Sure.
Wilson, when he first came out of Wisconsin, had some mobility to him. He could get to the edge. He could scramble enough to make a play. Now, I know he wears a flak jacket. Every quarterback does. But look, in Denver, did he not look heavier to you and less mobile?
Yep.
And the same thing with Pittsburgh. He looks heavier and less mobile. He's also been hurt. And this is something that I don't know if he has the ability to throw the ball deep. He's really a short to medium range passer right now, and that's what he is.
And I think for the most part, he's always been that. I think the Seahawks made him look a lot better on the deep ball.
But look, he made guys look.
Of course. I mean, look, he didn't have a lot of receiver. There's no doubt. Doug Baldwin was probably his best option for many years.
Yeah, I mean, so, but that's where he is at this stage of his career.
Yeah. At
this stage of his career, that's who he is. And hey, we want to stretch the field and so forth. Look, the Steelers, in my opinion, especially against cover 2, are going to be one of those teams that's going to take 8 to 10 plays to go 75 yards. They'll eat time off the clock, which will be good for the defense because the defense, of course, will be on the sideline and resting when you do that. But that's how they're going to score. And I'll be honest with you, I think they're going to be a team this year that's not going to score a lot of points.
No,
I don't think.
I think
the Steeler defense is going to have to play an incredible role where they're out there trying to keep the scores under 20.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And that's 2 things you talk about stretching the field. That is one thing Ayuk absolutely can do if he can get him the ball. That's the big if. If he goes to Pittsburgh, absolutely a great blocker downfield. Those are 2 very strong, big strengths of him. No question about it. He does have the ability to stretch the field in a big way, and he's done that. But, yeah, the other flip side of it is, Russell Wilson has definitely declined. I don't think there's any doubt. The injuries also are a big factor. And he's obviously, at this point, too, he's being paid handsomely by the Broncos on their blunder, yes. But the other part of it is he's on a prove-it deal, and he has a guy lurking behind him that is also going to be on a prove-it deal.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting spot in Pittsburgh where I'm not sure they knew they were going to get Justin Fields for as reasonable as they got him for.
Yeah.
Didn't give up hardly anything for him. Very low risk, very high reward potential for Fields. And, with Russell Wilson, the injuries right now in the preseason catching up to him, but you also have that other guy lurking. I think that both guys have a lot to prove here this year for the Steelers.
I just don't. If the quarterback is a big reason why they have a successful season, I'll be surprised. All right.
Agreed.
So,
100%.
Now let's get to Penn State football. James Franklin met with the media last night. Peter Gonzalez with a significant injury that's going to keep him out for a while. And he actually got off to a good start. Then it happened. Okay. But everybody's saying the same thing over and over again. Trey Wallace and Liam Clifford have been off to really good starts at wide receiver. Drew Allers had a really good camp. I think Bo Perbula, I thought Bo's camp last year was very much up and down. This year, I think he has been at a consistently really good level the entire camp. He talked about the search for the third running back. Well, they're still in search of that. Cam Wallace has missed a little bit of time, but Quentin Martin's been good. Let's give Corey Smith credit. I felt like the first 10 days his head was on a swivel. Now it seems to be more locked in. A freshman like Luke Reynolds has been flashing. You got Andrew Rapplier out there with Tyler Warren. Warren's just a really good player. There's so many things you can do with Warren.
Exactly. The versatility.
Really good.
Yep.
But, you look at the offensive line, and, you got Donko and Ruccio on that right side working it out. You got Dawkins. You got Wormley, Ioane, Drew Shelton. You got J.B. Nelson, who's played a lot at different positions. Cooper Cousins is a really good-looking freshman offensive lineman. You felt that way about that in the spring, and all he's done is build upon it here during the preseason. And as James said yesterday, Peter Gonzalez with a has a long-term injury. Okay. And this is there's so many elements of this football team that are really good, and one of the pluses has been is a guy you weren't sure about because he got hurt on the first day of training camp a year ago. Was Alonzo Ford.
Yep.
Well, Ford's battled himself all the way back. Guess what? He can play. Ford's been good. Yeah, I give Alonzo a lot of credit at that defensive tackle spot. He's been good. I mean, look, you already have Devon J. Thomas there. You already have Zane Durant there. We all know Keziah Izzard can play. We know that Akeem Beamon can play. But who else can step in there and play there? And guess what? Alonzo Ford is that guy who has stepped in and like, hey, he can play. And that's helped a lot because you're trying to somehow, work out what rotations happen to be and so forth. And he's a good player. Same thing in the safety spots. I mean, a couple of those young safeties have been playing really well. Now, are they going to move out the veterans? Of course not. The veterans are a cut above. Reed, Winston, Zakee Wheatley. So, those are the players that you have. And I think that this has been a really good camp to this point. They're going to go tonight. They go in the stadium tonight for the first time. And it's going to be a beautiful night to do it. And they'll finally get in there. For the younger players, like I'll give you an example. DeJuan Lane. Let's take him. And Corey Smith. Those guys did not come in until the late entry. They weren't here in the spring. So for them, with a helmet and pads on for a practice, it's the first time they've been in the stadium. They've been in the stadium for recruiting and things like that, but with the helmet and pads, they have, this is going to be incredibly beneficial for them to get out there and do that. Tyseer Denmark, who's had, by the way, a productive camp. Tyseer Denmark, he wasn't here in the spring. Get to go in the stadium. So they'll get a chance to do that tonight for the first time in training camp. So, yeah, that's that's where they are at this point. And like I said, the part about Ford's been great because Ford got hurt in the first day last year. First day. Hey, I'm excited. Here we go. Forget it. So he spent his time here rehabbing, working his way back, working his way back. Well, now he's back, and guess what? Lonzo Ford's a good player. He can play. And I think that's a big plus. Anytime you can come up with anybody that adds to what you're doing out there, that's a big plus. We've been hoping for something like that in this show, but what? Now let's get to something that is. We're going to go back in time a little bit. Old-time Big Ten writers. They go back. Have been incredibly provincial about the conference and the teams they cover. Very provincial. And very opinionated. So when certain schools have come into the conference, the opinion had been, well, they're going to have to adjust to how, quote, we play. Okay, Penn State came in. Well, they'll have to adjust to, it's going to be every day. Yeah. And then in the second season, Penn State blasted everybody. With the exception of Michigan, they had to win late against Michigan. The touchdown pass from Kerry Collins to Bobby Ingram, they won 31-24. And that was, it's actually a very good Michigan team. They lost in the last play to Colorado that year, and then Penn State beat them.
Had a 16-0 lead in that game, too, to start. And they got off to a great start in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and when it came time to vote after Penn State beat Ohio State 63-14, you had four of the Ohio longtime writers not vote Penn State number one. And Penn State came into the game ranked number one. They wouldn't vote them number one the next week. When Joe Tiller came into the league, and I was on the conference call because they used to do a conference call with all the coaches on Tuesday. So, I was trying to get sound and so forth that I could use for a Big Ten preview. And somebody asked Tiller, and this is his rookie year at Purdue, his first year at Purdue. And he's got this wide open offense. And he gets asked, and it was like sometime like at the end of October, mid-October, or end of October. I mean, do you think an offense like that can work in the Big Ten when you're not running the football in November? Okay. See the question?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah, this is how we play football here. Right? And Tiller, who was the master of this, says, I ran the exact same offense at Wyoming with great success, and that's not exactly the banana belt. It was one of the great answers I've ever heard in a press conference. Now let's turn the clock ahead to today. USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. What has been the prevailing thought about those four schools coming in? The prevailing thought is, how are they going to adjust to Big Ten football? The bottom line is, right, they may have to make some adjustments to Big Ten teams that they're playing, but current Big Ten teams have to make adjustments to how they play too. If you don't take that into account, you're an idiot.
Yeah, literally.
Okay?
Yeah,
I mean, no, I go back to the 90s, right? Guess what? Okay? Some of those, oh, yeah, a long time, not the brightest bulbs. Okay? It's like, what's doing here? Oh, I know everything. I've covered the Big Ten for years. Well, good for you. That's great. Yeah, in the 1980s, Penn State had won the championship in the Big Ten. My guess would be 5-6 times. Okay. They just were better. Penn State's winning national championships. Michigan's head coach is saying the most important title is the Big Ten title. Really?
Yeah. Penn State's beat a number one team on their field down 21-0 in 1990.
Yeah.
Or down 21-3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but see, I'm talking about attitude now. That attitude prevails. Well, guess what? Hey, Oregon isn't going to change overnight.
No.
Right? They're not going to change overnight. They are who they are.
Sure.
Washington has had dramatic changes. Yeah. They bring back one starter. They bring back one starter. One. Jed Fish has brought in a lot of guys, including some of his Arizona guys. Okay. They at least have some familiarity with him. Plus, I think he's got, Will Rogers at quarterback from Mississippi State.
Yep.
All right. Oregon's team that's best positioned based on what they've done. UCLA's rebuilding. So, they're not going to be a gauge as to what's going on. And USC is in flux. They've got that opener with LSU. That, I think, is going to be incredibly dramatic. You're looking at two teams in LSU and USC. It's the opening game in Las Vegas. In fact, you bought a suite, didn't you?
That's right. Two of them.
I wouldn't have bragged. And last year, Caleb Williams, high hopes. They got the defense fixed, the whole thing, and they ended up having, right? Remember, this is a year ago.
This is a year ago. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And no. Not happening. They had a good season, not a great season. LSU. They've got the Heisman Trophy winner. Turns out the guy that's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner. They've got Neighbors, a first-round pick, a wide receiver. Offense scores lots of points. And the defense can't get it done. And they have a good, not great season. So now you have these two programs, now with new quarterbacks, that each performed well in a bowl game. Okay? In game one, what are we going to see? Because these are two programs very similar in what they did last year. A lot of talent at quarterback, a lot of talent at the skill positions. not a lot of cohesiveness on defense. What do we see in that opening game? What do we see? So when we talk about adjusting to a conference, the biggest adjustment you have to make as a coaching staff is not style of play. It's learning personnel. You know, Penn State's going to play West Virginia in the opener. Well, it turned out they played West Virginia last year. So the Penn State coaching staff at least has a handle on the speed with which Garrett Green runs the offense and how they have an idea of Donaldson's style of running. Jaheim White, what his style of running happens to be. You got a pretty good read on the 4 offensive linemen that are back. Okay. So you at least have a basis of not only video, but also seeing live and then reviewing the next day the video so that you already have a basis of, okay, now let's look at some of the games they played at the end of last year. Wow, okay, the right tackle got a lot better. Oh, wow, it's like White really, started to take over at running back. Oh. But you have a gauge. It's not a blank slate where you're trying to sit there and go, okay, what do they do? I mean, that'll happen with Bowling Green, Kent State. Then, of course, they play Illinois. But for USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, they're going to have to do this across the board. Right? Game in and game out, they're going to have to do it across the board, except when they play each other. Where, how many new opponents? I mean, let's take USC. USC football. Let's see. Might as well go with, because usually the guy kind of loves to go with the glamour guys. You're kind of more of a Hollywood type yourself.
That's right.
USC football schedule. Football. Yeah, so LSU, they start, we got Utah State. Then they're at Michigan. Okay. They haven't played Michigan. They've got Wisconsin. They haven't played Wisconsin. They're at Minnesota. It's been years since they played Minnesota.
Sure.
Penn State, haven't played them since the Rose Bowl. At Maryland, haven't played them. Rutgers, haven't played them. Then they finally play at Washington. Right? Nebraska, they haven't played at UCLA. Then they get Notre Dame. So they're going to have to learn, just from a Big Ten point of view, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have to learn 7 new opponents to go with their non-conference, which includes Utah State and LSU. So they have to learn 9 opponents' personnel. Now, look, obviously there's transfers and things like that come into play. But those are 9 schools they did not play last year out of 12. The only ones that they're going to be playing that they played last year will be Notre Dame, UCLA, and Washington. Now, and Washington's completely different. I mean, the Washington team that played in the Coliseum last year, it was the same day Penn State played Maryland.
Yeah.
So Jack and I were driving back from College Park, and we were listening to this USC-Washington game. And Pete Arbogast was doing the USC broadcast. He goes, there he goes again, another 40-yard run. There you go. The two of us were laughing so hard because Pete was just like so sarcastic about, like, there we go, it's another 50-yard play. Because Washington's offense was so dynamic.
Yeah,
and the running back
was so abysmal.
And the running back for Washington had a gigantic night. Right? I mean, I'm talking gigantic. So, UCLA's pretty much the same, and Notre Dame is pretty much the same. And those are the last 2 games. Before they get to them, every team they play, it's all new personnel.
And you get Michigan early, and that's a big part of it, too.
Right.
Yeah.
But they got 10 new opponents.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, Washington's a new opponent. I mean, they may have played Washington last year, but the guys they're playing are not the guys they played last year. And it's not the coaching staff they played.
No, that's the other part of it. Yeah, you
right?
lose.
So this does come into play, the ability to learn. learn new opponents. I'll never forget when Maryland came in, and Maryland's first year in the conference. I'm trying to remember if they tied for first, finished second, something.
They were up there. Yeah,
right?
That was the
right, and they had a good
infamous
team.
handshake year. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about Maryland basketball.
Oh, yep. Football played well that year too.
Yeah.
That's Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, just I know you're covering up now. I don't know what you're doing there. So Maryland basketball comes in, and they finished either up at the top or right up there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they tied for first. Maybe they was whatever. I think they were second, something like that. I voted Mark Turgeon the coach of the year. And somebody said, "Why'd you vote for Turgeon coach of the year?" I said, "Because he had to learn
all of it.
Right, 13 new teams.
Yeah,
right, which ended up being 2/3 of their schedule.
Yeah,
and they did this. They said, he had really good personnel himself, but you still have to do scouting and things like that. These weren't teams, except maybe in an ACC Big Ten Challenge they played.
Yeah, or I had a little bit of familiarity. I think they played Indiana a couple times previously, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's Big Ten ACC Challenge games, right? I said, but they had to learn everybody else. I said, to craft that kind of records, and give the guy credit, because that's what Joe Paterno told me.
Yeah,
I was talking with Joe one day about transitioning into the conference. He says, Steve, at this point, it was 8 conference games. He says, Steve, we have to learn 8 new opponents. He says, year after year, we'd play like Boston College, Syracuse. He said, at that point, Rutgers was non-conference. Rutgers, West Virginia, people like that. He said, we had a pretty good handle year to year as to the personnel from years past, and we had a way to, do advance that really helped us. He says, now it's all new, all 8. And that's not that's not taken into account. Everybody just thinks you can walk in and play. Texas is going to walk in and play. Well, Texas is not going to just walk in and play. Okay, it's going to take a lot for them. Even their rivalry game with Texas A&M, they haven't played them in a decade. Right? They don't know them. They may have recruited some of the personnel, but they don't know them. Oklahoma, they're going to walk in. I don't know, but also the league has to adjust to them too on a game-by-game basis. Ohio State's going to have to adjust to some things that Oregon does. There'll be some, over time, Oregon, USC, and so forth are going to do some things that are going to make longtime Big Ten opponents adjust. Conversely, there are going to be some things that longtime Big Ten opponents do, where those 4 teams out west will have to adjust. Each one is going to have an adjustment, right? Not with the old longtime Big Ten writers from the 60s, 70s, and Big Ten football. Oh, please. Okay, take into account other people play football too. All right. Thought you really did a great job of adjusting as an entire conference to Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter, Bobby Ingram, Freddie Scott, Mike Archie, Kyle Brady, that offensive line, and so forth. I thought your adjustments were brilliant.
Yeah, they were completely brilliant, especially that opener. You have 56 points. 61 to Iowa against Iowa.
Come on.
Complete offensive adjustments.
So you've got to be able to take that into account, that all the schools moving into a new conference will have to make some adjustment to the people they're playing. Conversely, the people they're playing have to adjust to you.
Right.
All right? And that's something that's going to make this really interesting to see how it plays out. And we can't tell until they start playing games.
Right.
That's why we always sit there and we talk about this being the talking season. To me, it's the silly season, all sorts of stuff. Look, people have to write things.
Exactly. And that's that.
And I respect the fact that people have to write things. I don't like the line in the sand like, they'll never, this is how we play here. No, you write about how they play. You don't play.
That's exactly right.
Okay, let's try
that. Is exactly right.
Let's try that. But these guys are long retired, right? I mean, they've long retired. But and every year is a new year unto itself. They've never been able to. Okay, well, guess what? It's a new year. It's a new opportunity. Yep. Little League World Series starts today. Santa Cruz, Aruba, where I believe you have a winter home.
A couple of them, actually, yeah.
We'll take on Tamaulipas, Mexico. That's the opening game at 1 o'clock. Salem, New Hampshire against Waluka, Hawaii at 3. Taipei against Surrey, Canada at 5. And Lake Mary, Florida against Sioux Falls, South Dakota in the nightcap at 7. In the Little League World Series that gets underway today. They had the parade last night. J.J. McCarthy, meniscus. They don't know how long he's going to be out. Now, a lot of people thought if he were to take over quarterback, it might not be till mid-season.
Yeah, I think Darnold's was the starter penciled in.
And he's definitely going to.
Yeah, going to be now.
They're now using
at least
ink.
Half the year.
They're now using ink.
Yeah, absolutely.
To put his name down.
Permanent marker.
Yeah.
Till whatever McCarthy's healthy.
Yeah. So that's the story there. Jordan Childs, I wouldn't even send it back.
I wouldn't. No, heck no.
Like, I
wouldn't send it back. Throw it in a river if you have to. Work for somebody else.
Oh, you're just so anti-Muhammad Ali. Come on.
Oh, how could you be? I grew up.
I'll never forget.
He trained
Penn
10
State.
minutes from where I grew up.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Dick
Girardi went to what? Dick Girardi and two of his buddies years ago said, we've got to go find Ali's camp. They found it. Well, they walked up to the door, knocked on the door. Ali answered.
Nice.
Invited them in. Them in.
That's awesome.
Right? They're like looking around like going, this is great. We're here at the champ, in the Poconos. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's good that it's become what it's now become, where it's fighters heaven, I think it's called, and tourists are able to see it. For many years, they weren't. For many years, that was...
His buddy just walked in.
Well, this was when Ali was training there. When Ali stopped training there, it became not a tourist attraction as it should have been. It became butterflies and bees, bed and breakfast or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it became something else. George Dillman, great guy, absolutely spectacular guy. Just was very private with the place. Did not allow anything or anybody to come near it. And obviously Madden's kid takes it over, and now he's turned it into a tourist attraction, and it's sensational. Right. I think that's what it should be.
Yeah. So in 1997, Penn State plays at Louisville. This is before they built Papa John's Stadium. What's it called now? University of Louisville Stadium? Whatever.
I lose track of so many sponsors.
Yeah,
it literally, in all due respect, they pay great money for it, but I lose track of them.
But this is before they built the new stadium there, which they've been in now for a long time. So they're playing in the old Louisville Redbirds minor league ballpark. That's where they were playing football. So Penn State goes down to play them there. And I'm sitting there, and now it's time for the coin toss. And Muhammad Ali came out for the coin toss. And you're like, oh, my God. Well, the two teams come off the sideline. I mean, there's the champ. The champ. And to see them all act like little kids, all of them, it was the greatest thing going. And the crowd, of course, going insane.
Absolutely. Yeah,
insane. Right? I mean, it was almost like you were there. And
well, no objects were thrown onto the facility. That was...
And it was just a great scene, great moment. It's a year after, it was a year after the Atlanta Olympics.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a big part too, where he just and it was just a very well kept secret too. I think when you had Janet Evans was part of that, Evander Holyfield was part of that, and then emerging just out of nowhere, there's Muhammad Ali to light the torch, and that was an absolutely spectacular moment for the Summer Olympics.
But when he came out for the Penn State football coin toss,
that's awesome.
Man, that was like really. I mean that was really cool.
I think the one thing he did that I think a lot of others struggle to do is completely embrace the ambassador role, completely embrace knowing that I'm in a position where I can help people. I'm going to do everything I can to do that. And I think that, and I take nothing away from Michael Jordan. I take nothing away from Tiger Woods. I think you can give him the credit. I take nothing away from Tom Brady. I don't think they've embraced that role like Muhammad Ali embraced that role. I think they know who they are. I think they absolutely know what they have to do and how they have to conduct themselves, except for Tiger Woods. I think Tiger Woods grew up, unfortunately, the hard way. But
he speaks highly of you.
He's fortunately, he's gotten better. But I think, they know how to approach it. But I think Ali, to me, just took it to another level.
Yeah. Ali was the great promoter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with Joe Frazier, he took it too far. And he knows,
There's
and
no
he
question.
knew it. And he knew it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
After Manila, he knew he took it too far.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to make amends with Frazier. And Frazier, who, when Ali was down and out, helped him out financially with a few bucks here and there. Because Ali wasn't getting any help when he was stripped of his title.
No, he wasn't getting any help financially, and he wasn't getting any help publicly. Yeah, that was a moment for Ali where, and to this day, there are a lot of people, and it's understandable completely. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Joe Frazier was there.
And I think that's the part that, Frazier felt betrayed. And I met Frazier. Did not like you. like Joe.
I actually had the chance to see one of the great moments. I was at the 2002 NBA All-Star game and walked right past the two of them sitting together. That was one moment.
Frazier and Ali.
Frazier and Ali. One moment I will never forget.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Now boxing it looks like it's not going to be a part of the Olympics.
Oh, and boxing is just going so down. They're lacking that major draw right now. They really are. And
look, they were not helped at all.
No.
By the Manny Pacquiao
Mayweather fight. Where it was
build up.
The most expensive fight in the history of pay-per-view.
Right. And then nothing happened for 12 rounds because
literally.
That's how Mayweather fights.
That's how Mayweather fought.
He always fights that way.
Yeah. For many years, I would go down as saying one of the greater boxers of all time. Yes, I don't think you take that away from him. One of the greater fighters of all time? No way. Not a chance.
Right.
Do I put Mayweather in that conversation?
No.
And he can come on the show and mouth off to us all he wants, like he did to Howard Merchant so many years. That's there's no way. And to Brian Kenny.
I mean, did he lose? No, he never lost.
No, he never lost. He's a great boxer, one of the greatest of all time.
He never lost.
From a fighter's standpoint,
right. And as a technician, as a fighter, superior. As a technician, especially a defensive technician, superior.
He's a smart fighter, boxer.
But in no way was he a dynamic fighter.
No.
And that was the big problem with him, is that he's just not a dynamic fighter.
Yeah, especially because of those weight classes for many years. That's where you saw that. You saw guys like Roy Jones Jr., pound for pound, just be complete power, be the best boxer at that era. Oscar De La Hoya, Pernell Whitaker, those guys all would take. Well, you can go back even further than that. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, one of the greatest fights you'll ever see in a lifetime. And those are the fights that I think people waited for at those weight classes. You didn't get it.
Right.
And after that, I think you really lacked a draw. Obviously, Mike Tyson, say what you want about him, and you have good reason to say many things about him. One of the greatest draws in boxing history.
No doubt.
And one of the great, and Don King knew what he was doing promoting him.
Yeah. Ali did not like Don King.
No, I don't think Tyson didn't like him in the end either.
Boy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, because I think King was the Foreman Ali promoter.
Yep.
And Ali did not like him.
No.
And in fact, there's that in the movie Ali, and because this happened, and Will Smith did a great job in that movie.
Exceptional job. Yep.
There was that scene where they're at the press conference, and I think King said something about Angelo Dundee, right? And Ali was an incredibly loyal individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he knows darn well how invaluable Angelo Dundee was, and that Angelo Dundee could care less about whether his name was Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali.
Exactly.
That was, And I get Ali looked over and he says, "Don't you ever say a word about Angie again, ever." I mean, it was like one of those like, whoa.
Yeah.
He looked at Don King and basically told him to stick it, right? He said, "I'll go to the wall for that guy. I won't even take half a step."
Yeah.
Didn't like him.
And that was the thing I think and I think Tyson trusted Don King for too long. I think that was where Tyson went wrong. Obviously, because D'Amato dies, that was a big part of his life. And that D'Amato was an incredible part of his journey. But Kevin Rooney as a trainer, I think to me was the best in the business at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, things go south. He associates himself with Don King, and he's not in shape to fight the fight in Tokyo. Buster Douglas knocks him out in the 10th round.
Right. Yeah. That fight took place so late at night.
On a Saturday night. Yeah, I remember
Saturday,
that.
I was like, I woke up next to you lost?
Yeah.
Really? You lost?
And that for our era, obviously the Miracle will always be one of the great upsets in sports. I think Tyson and Douglas is in the conversation in the top 2 or 3.
Well,
that was one that was...
So Buster Douglas goes to a Penn State, Ohio State basketball game, sitting courtside. And this was after he had retired. Needless to say, he wasn't quite nearly in the same shape he was the night.
No. He wasn't in the same shape at the end of his boxing career when he was still fighting.
He was not in the same shape. All right. So, check it out. Hey, Dick, check that out. Buster Douglas. And the two of us are like, oh. Really? Because he's from Columbus.
Yeah. Yep, right. From Ohio. Yep.
He's sitting in the front row, like going, okay. Buster Douglas is at the fight.
And the ironic part of it, too, well, also, obviously, the circumstances to what else happened with Mike Tyson at that time, but I think that victory by Douglas sort of derailed, and we almost got it anyway, but sort of derailed the fight that I think you were waiting for. You were waiting for Tyson and Holyfield in 91.
Yeah.
I think that was going to be a fight that was going to be absolutely the two best at that time going at it. Lennox Lewis was up and coming. I think Lewis was real good. Yeah. But you had that fight, and look, it happened in 96. And
Lennox Lewis was good enough to be in Ocean's 11, man. Come on.
Lennox Lewis was darn good. Had a glass jaw, but he was darn good. I think another guy trained in the Poconos. But I think ultimately you would have had that fight in 91. Who knows what the outcome would have been. But that's a what might have been moment. I thought in 96, both guys saw better days. And then obviously the embarrassment that was 1997 in the rematch. I think so you never really got that fight at the level you wanted to have it at.
Well, in the 50s, the three biggest sports were boxing, horse racing, baseball.
Yeah.
Well, here we are now in the 2020s. Boxing, not extinct, but is so...
Combat sports have heard it,
right?
too. Combat sports have crushed boxing.
Boxing is faded into...
Agreed.
Now into a absolute niche sport where it's not even going to be in the Olympics. Horse racing still has the Triple Crown, and you see people going to it, betting on it, and the Breeders' Cup, same thing. And Saratoga is still, right? But people aren't going to the track unless they want to go to the casinos, okay? Yeah. And then there's Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is doing well, but not great.
No, it could do a lot better.
And they've done a much better job of speeding the game up, no question. You know, the pitch clock's been great. The shifts have at least given one the perception. I mean, you know, the averages don't work out that way, but the perception that there's more room to hit the ball. And, but the way the game is played today, when you have an organization that is fixated completely on analytics, not every organization is. I said when you have an organization that is fixated on analytics, it is not an enjoyable game to watch.
Agreed.
And that's when you have somebody telling you that a strikeout is like any other out, you're like, well, wait a minute. He just grounded out to second, and the guy from third scored. If he struck out, the guy would still be on third. Did I miss something here? Or when there's a fly ball deep to right field, guy tags up at second, goes to third, the next pitch is a wild pitch. Did the fly out to right field, if it were a strikeout? If it were a wild pitch, it'd have gotten to third. That's where you can tell they've never played, don't understand the game. They don't understand the game. And they're telling everybody how to play the game. They're telling everybody
how to play it, exactly.
Like, no, that's okay. And there are a lot of people that don't enjoy it anymore.
No.
Because of that. Because it doesn't mean there's not a role for analytics in it. There is a role. But it's up to a point. Like, you got to be able to reject. Well, you know, this. We came up with all these formulas. I'm like, well, guess what? Like, it's the 10th inning. I've got a runner on second to start the inning. Guess what? How come we don't see people bunting the guy over? Ever.
Yep.
Really? Oh no, you can't bunt. You can't do that. Bunting is anti-analytics. Okay, well here's one for you. I'm trying to win.
Yeah, literally.
I never see. Doesn't mean you have to do it every single time. If the runner they put a runner on second and Rafael Devers is at the plate.
I was going to say, you're going to run on second.
I'm not bunting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Miguel Cabrera is at the plate or something.
If I've got Aaron Judge at the plate, I'm not bunting.
No.
Right? But if it turns out I'm at the bottom of the order. The number
9 hitter? Yeah, you're turning the order.
Suddenly out of nowhere, I've got Cedon Rafaela at second base, and I've got David Hamilton at the plate. I'm bunting.
Mm-hmm.
To move Rafaela over to third, because now, with his speed, you've got all sorts of possibilities. And if it's the Pirates, I'd be bunting to get anybody to second base right now. It just is not going well. They lost 3-0 last night.
9 in a row now.
That's 9 in a row. I mean, when the highlight of the broadcast last night was Dan Potash bringing food into the booth, it's not a good night. How come you don't bring any food into the booth?
I wish I could. I'll tell you. They don't hook us up anymore. No, they do.
What day is that? Really, what day is that? I'm waiting. All right. That wraps it up for today. Really, I I'm going to Harrisburg tonight, so
All right.
I've got to speak. It's actually in Camp Hill, speaking to a group this evening. And Joe Crispin's going to be there. Clarissa Crowell's going to be there. And you won't be there, so it's going to be an enjoyable night.
That was the best news of the night. They said, is he going to be there? No, I'm in.
You should have seen the ticket sales go up.
I was thinking that. They found out I was going to be there, and they
once it was announced that you weren't going,
caused a glitch in the system. My goodness.
I don't know. He might be there. Okay. You take too much abuse. Most of it's doled out by me.
That's right.
See you tomorrow.